hook. Have you ever trusted a smiling neighbor, only to discover that behind that grin was someone quietly plotting to destroy your life? Imagine being in your own home, the place you've worked your whole life for, only to be told you might lose it over fabricated violations. That was me, and what my homeowners association president didn't know, as she schemed to take everything from me, was that I wasn't just any homeowner. I was a federal judge, and I had the evidence that would bring her entire plan crashing down. But to understand how it all happened, the betrayal, the intimidation, and the moment she froze when I revealed who I really was, you need to hear the full story. The first letter looked harmless. A slip of paper taped to my door, marked with the HOA's logo. I remember setting down my coffee, peeling it from the wood, and reading words that would become the start of months of torment. Notice of violation. Your property is in breach of HOA standards. I frowned. Breach, for what? My lawn was trimmed, my paint fresh, my fence sturdy. But at the bottom of the page, written in bold red, were fines already assessed. I brushed it off as a clerical mistake, maybe paperwork shuffled wrong. So I walked across the cul-de-sac to the HOA president's home, a stately two-story with spotless flower beds that almost looked unnatural. She answered the door with a rehearsed smile. "Oh, Judge Thompson," she cooed, though everyone in the neighborhood just called me Mark, nothing personal. Just a formality. Her name was Linda, 50-something, impeccably dressed even on weekends, with the air of someone who believed she was running a kingdom, rather than a subdivision. "Linda," I said calmly, "there must be some mistake. What violation?" Her smile tightened. "Your shutters? They're not the correct shade approved by the association. You'll need to repaint. Oh, and your mailbox leans ever so slightly. Structural hazard." I looked back at my home. My shutters were navy blue, the exact color approved when I'd moved in my mailbox. Solid. Straight, not even an inch off center. "This is nonsense," I said, my patience thinning. Her eyes flashed with something cold. "Mark, rules are rules. I enforce them equally. You'll comply or fines escalate. Non-payment can result in a lion on your home." I walked away, unsettled but certain reason would prevail. But reason had no place here. The next weeks brought a storm escalating violation letters, surprise inspections when I wasn't home, even photographs slipped under my door. Angles, so tight they felt invasive, like surveillance. The fines climbed into the thousands. Neighbors began whispering. Some pitied me. Others avoided eye contact, afraid Linda's wrath would turn on them next. But the breaking point came one humid evening in July. I came home to find an envelope marked Finel Naughty C. Dintated. I sat on my porch, hands trembling, the paper blurring in my vision. My home, the place I raised my kids, the place I buried my wife's ashes under the oak tree in the yard, was under threat because of a power-hungry neighbor's lies. Linda had gone too far, and she had no idea who she was really dealing with. I stopped being the quiet, accommodating neighbor that night. Instead, I became what I had been trained to be for decades, a federal judge, a man who lived and breathed the law. For days, I combed through every violation letter, every so-called inspection photo, every scrap of evidence Linda had assembled. And what I found was damning. Dates that didn't match. Photographs digitally altered. Neighbors confirmed my shutters hadn't changed in years. Even signatures forged from other board members, who later confessed they'd never approved the notices. I compiled everything in a thick binder, labeled and tabbed, the way I would for any courtroom trial. The next HOA board meeting was packed. Linda sat at the head of the table, her posture regal, her smile smug, as if she were about to crown herself queen of the cul-de-sac. "Next order of business," she announced. "Foreclosure proceedings on Lot 14, Mr. Thompson's property." I stood slowly, binder in hand. "Actually, before we proceed, I have something to say." Her smile faltered slightly, but she waved me on, clearly expecting a desperate plea. I set the binder down with a solid thunk. For weeks, you've harassed me with fabricated violations. You've doctored evidence, you've abused your authority. And now, you've attempted to seize my home illegally." Gasps rippled through the room. Linda's face flushed crimson. "That's outrageous!" I followed every rule to the letter. I opened the binder, flipping to the first tab. "This photo you submitted. Timestamped a day I was out of state. Here are the receipts. This board approval signature. Forged. Here's a written statement from the member who supposedly signed. Shall I continue?" Her hands trembled as I laid out piece after piece of proof, each one stripping away her facade of control. Finally, I paused, looking her dead in the eye. "And before you accuse me of misinterpreting the law, you should know something, Linda. I am not just Mark Thompson, your neighbor. I am Judge Thompson, federal court." The silence was electric. The room froze. Linda's mouth opened but no words came. The smugness drained from her face, replaced by the pale realization of what she had done, and who she had picked a fight with. "I have the authority, the knowledge, and the evidence to take this matter far beyond this room," I said firmly. "You've abused your position, violated multiple state laws, and jeopardized every homeowner here with your reckless behavior." The other board members shifted uncomfortably. One finally spoke. I vote to dismiss all proceedings against Mr. Thompson." One by one, the rest followed. All eyes avoided Linda's. As the meeting adjourned, I packed up my binder, the weight of it heavy but satisfying. Neighbors clapped my shoulder, whispered thanks, relief etched on their faces. Linda slipped out a side door, defeated, her kingdom collapsing around her. Closing message that night, I sat on my porch again. This time not in despair but in peace. My home was safe. But more importantly, the community was free from the grip of one person's hunger for power. The truth is, injustice doesn't always come from courtrooms or headlines. Sometimes, it comes from across the street wearing a friendly smile. And when it does, we can't stay silent. Stand up. Protect what's yours. Because the moment you reveal your strength, the truth, the evidence, the courage within you, those who try to tear you down will have no choice but to freeze.